welcome back to Max Reaction. How are you doing today? Hopefully you're having a good day, a positive day. And we're going to check out a video entitled High Tensions, South China Sea, Latest News. There's a lot of things happening in the South China Sea, as they want to call it. It's called many other things, but China keeps wanting to claim the sea. They keep expanding on different reefs, building up their presence, even apparently ramming fishing boats. But that's nothing new. So we're going to check this out. We're going to see what it's about. We're going to talk about it. I want to make it clear to you guys, I do not have a problem with the Chinese people, but I do have a serious problem with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. They're just simply not good people. They hold their people down. They quiet their people if their people speaks up. And of course, they've allowed this virus to spread. It's real obvious that they did. They try to hide it, and now, unfortunately, the whole world's got to deal with it. But this ain't about the virus. This is about the South China Sea. So let's check it out.
China act like the owner, sinking all the fishing boats in the South China Sea. On Monday, the U.S.
Beep.
China act like the owner, sinking all the fishing boats in the South China Sea. On Monday, the U.S. State Department criticized China after reports emerged that a Vietnamese fishing vessel had been sunk near the disputed Paracel Islands.
It's terrible.
In a statement, Morgan Ortagus, the U.S. Department of State spokesperson, said that the United States was seriously concerned by reports of the PRC sinking of a Vietnamese fishing vessel in the vicinity of the Paracel Islands in the South China Sea. This incident is the latest in a long string of PRC actions to assert unlawful maritime claims and disadvantage its Southeast Asian neighbors in the South China Sea, she added. The Vietnamese Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that a fishing boat, number QNG 90617TS, was hindered, rammed and sunk by a China Coast Guard ship. The incident involved a Chinese maritime surveillance ship. Both China and Vietnam claimed that the other side's vessel was illegally operating the area. Both countries claim the entirety of the Paracel Islands.
Well, I gotta stop this for a second. It's just a fishing boat. It's just a fishing boat, and you rammed right through it. You knew exactly what was going to happen. You were trying to sink it, CCP. You were trying to sink it, and you did.
Beijing has announced new research stations on military bases it built on Fiery Cross Reef and Subi Reef, and landed special military aircraft on Fiery Cross Reef, the U.S. State Department statement added.
And on top of that, you guys don't give a damn about nature. You're just destroying these beautiful reefs to put military bases on, which is ridiculous. The world should be pissed off just at that.
The United States has singled out China after previous incidents between Hanoi and Beijing in the South China Sea. Last August, the U.S. Department of Defense criticized China for behavior it described as bullying.
Yeah,
China will not win the trust of its neighbors nor the respect of the international community by maintaining its bullying tactics, a statement at the time noted. The American reaction came after a Chinese survey ship was conducting activities near Vietnam's coastline and in Hanoi's exclusive economic zone. China, Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines, Brunei, and Taiwan are all territorial claimants in the South China Sea. China claims nearly 90% of the waters in the area under its capacious 9-line claim, including the entirety of the Spratly Islands, where Beijing has built 7 artificial islands.
Which is incorrect. They shouldn't be owning that. They should not be owning that. I think an international court even proved that, and they just ignore it.
China's 9-line was deemed an unlawful maritime claim by an arbitral tribunal convened under the 1982 Law of the Sea Convention in July 2016,
Absolutely.
A position shared by the U.S. government, the State Department said on Monday, referencing the award by a Hague-based tribunal in a 2013 case filed by the Philippines against China after a standoff in 2012 over Scarborough Shoal. The location of the crash was near the Paracel Island, an area of dispute where both countries claim sovereignty. It lies within Vietnam's Exclusive Economic Zone (EEZ) and is inside the tongue-shaped 9-dash line that China uses to claim the bulk of the South China Sea.
Get out of here with that.
The most serious battle over the island group was in 1974 when several Vietnamese were killed after an invasion to retake the islands occupied by China. In recent years, China and other Asian countries have scuffled, resulting in sunken boats and standoffs.
Need to push him
A
back.
Philippine fishing vessel was sunk near the Spratly Islands in June of 2019 that caused some uproar, but it was downplayed by Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. The USA's only involvement is to make regular freedom of navigation runs and some minor military exercises to demonstrate a balance of power in the waterway. Nguyen Van
We got a
Hai, a
presence.
local Vietnamese official from the Quang Ngai province located near the parcels, said China's ships hit and sank the fishing boat Thursday morning before capturing and detaining the crew on a nearby island.
And they took the crew.
He said, "This is the first time a Chinese ship has hit and sunk boats in our commune this year." The Vietnamese state media quoted local sources that when 2 rescue boats tried to rescue the 8 crew members, the boats were detained by the CCG. Beijing's
no
Foreign
right,
Ministry
China.
spokeswoman Hua Chunying
No
told
right.
a different tale Friday. She
No
said
right.
that the Vietnamese boat suddenly turned sharply and impacted the CCG ship that was making efforts to avoid the collision.
My ass. My ass. My ass. So you're saying a fishing boat is trying to cut in the front of a path of a much higher tech boat? Like, it's like a scooter going against a big truck. Why would they do that? That's kind of suicide, don't you think? Those are absolutely lies. Lies. That's what the CCP is good at, though. Lying. That's why we're in the situation we are today, because they're liars.
Both sides will likely stick to their stories. The Vietnamese fishermen will tell their story to local authorities who will then submit complaints to their bosses. China will likely stay silent on the issue, and because Vietnam cannot compete militarily against China.
The U.S. can,
The
though.
USS Theodore Roosevelt, the 4th Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in the United States Navy, has just completed a visit to Vietnam.
Yeah, I know, but we got a serious problem going on there because the virus has even made it onto that ship. So, yeah. Not
The
good.
stopover marked the second aircraft carrier to visit the country in 2 years since March of 2018, when the USS Carl Vinson paid a call. The U.S. ambassador to Vietnam, Daniel Kritenbrink, said in an embassy statement that visits like these not only strengthen the United States partnership with Vietnam, but they also continue to ensure peace and stability and freedom of commerce across the region.
And there needs to be
From
freedom
November
there.
of 1955 until April of 1975, the United States and Vietnam were engaged in a protracted war, with the question of who won or lost still a matter of some debate.
Nobody
It took
won.
another 20 years
Nobody
before the
won.
ties between the two countries were normalized. Meanwhile,
Lot of
China
death.
has grown as a superpower, and it is no secret that they covet the #1 position held by the United States. In
A superpower? Oh, why? Because their economy's doing good? It's actually not doing good. You should look up ghost cities in China. That's partially how they're propping up their economy, by building all these fake cities, all these skyscrapers that nobody live in, and they just keep building them because that plays in the part of their economy. Like, look at all this stuff we're building. Look at all this stuff we're building. But guess what? There ain't nobody living in them. It's all fake. Just like everything made in China is fake, and the quality's poor, and the leadership's super poor, and it's going to crumble. I'm going to tell you, it's going to crumble. After this virus, there's a lot of countries going to pull out. They're going to lose a lot of their factories. They're going to lose a lot of their money, and there's going to be rough times for the CCP, and unfortunately for the Chinese. I don't want to see the Chinese have a rough time. The normal people that don't even want the CCP to be leading them. And then, of course, you got the Chinese that are brain controlled by the CCP, because that's all they do is push out propaganda. But I wouldn't call China a superpower. They're pushing all these other little countries around, but they're not going to push the U.S. around. Not anymore. Not with the leader we have.
In recent years, Beijing has taken aggressive actions in the South China Sea, infringing on the exclusive economic zones (EEZs) of their neighbors to the south, armed with warships and a dubious claim to the entire South China Sea known as the 9-dash line. The election of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte in 2016 has proven to be favorable to China as well. The Philippines has been a staunch U.S. ally since the early 1900s, fighting arm in arm with the U.S. to defeat Japan in World War II and through the Vietnam War. Since his election, Duterte has indicated that he would prefer to side with China instead of the U.S. In what may be a reaction to Duterte's growing distaste for all things American, the U.S. aircraft carrier visits may be a signal that Washington is cozying up to Vietnam to maintain a strong military check on China in case Duterte continues to drift toward the communist country.
And we'll always be
added to the mix
Philippines,
is that
always.
Vietnam has emerged as the most vocal opponent of China's extensive territorial claims to the sea and has been buying U.S. military hardware. Recently, Vietnam and China became engaged in a months-long standoff over incursions by Chinese survey vessels into Vietnam's EEZ.
China's also trying to push on Taiwan. China always claims Taiwan's part of China, and Taiwan is not part of China. It pisses me off every time I see China claim that Taiwan's part of China. Even in what's going on today, the WHO, the World Health Organization, they won't even claim that Taiwan is Taiwan. They keep saying Taiwan's part of China. It's craziness. It's criminal, and the WHO's done too. After this, the WHO is done. They helped spread this virus. They help spread Chinese bullshit. They do it all the time. And they're done. They're done. And China's done too. I guarantee it. Just wait till we get past this virus. Because we got to get past it. We're losing a lot of good people, a lot of loved ones. But once we get past this virus, look out, CCP, because it's on. It's on, and you're going to crumble.
To get approval for an aircraft carrier visit in Vietnam requires a unanimous consensus among Vietnam's 19-member Politburo that seems to be split between favoring closer relations with the United States or remaining aligned with China. The question is if the U.S. motives are to strengthen the United States partnership with Vietnam, as the U.S. ambassador thinks, or is it to create a hedge against China's regional influence by stirring up conflicts between China and regional countries as put forth by China's daily tabloid, the Global Times.
The Global Times is like watching some kind of, or looking at some kind of newspaper or watching some kind of news that's just going to spread propaganda. Everything's negative to all the world, even the so-called allies of the China, what they call the Silk Road Initiative or whatever. If you notice, every country that signed up with that, it's went negative towards them. It's went negative because that's what happens when you deal with the CCP. That's what happens when you deal with communists. They're terrible people. They also put, all these different ethnic groups in these labor camps in China. Look that up too. And they're killing people. They're harvesting organs from these people. It's ridiculous. Every nation should be pissed off, not at the Chinese people, but at the CCP, the Communist Party. They're terrible. They need to get rid of. They need to be sunk into the bottom of the ocean.
Global Times slant is that the U.S. can avoid a direct military conflict with Beijing and be able to thwart China's development using Vietnam as its pawn. Vietnam has lodged an official protest with China following the sinking of a Vietnamese fishing boat it said had been rammed by a Chinese maritime surveillance vessel near islands in the disputed South China Sea. Vietnamese fishing vessel, with 8 fishermen on board, was fishing near the Paracel Islands on Thursday when it was rammed and sunk by the Chinese vessel, Vietnam's foreign ministry said in a statement posted on a government website on Saturday. All the fishermen were picked up by the Chinese vessel alive and were transferred to 2 other Vietnamese fishing vessels operating nearby, the Vietnam Fisheries Society said in a statement posted to its website. The Chinese vessel committed an act that violated Vietnam's sovereignty over the Hoang Sa archipelago and threatened the lives and damaged the property and legitimate interests of Vietnamese fishermen, the foreign ministry
China,
said in its statement, referring to the Paracel Islands by its Vietnamese name. Vietnam and China have for years been embroiled in a dispute over the potentially energy-rich stretch of water called the East Sea by Vietnam.
That's what it's about. Money.
The Vietnamese boat illegally entered the area to fish and refused to leave, the Chinese Coast Guard said late on Friday. After making some dangerous maneuvers, the boat collided with a Chinese patrol vessel and sank, the Chinese Coast Guard said in a statement on its social media account.
Yeah, right.
The Chinese Coast Guard also said it had made solemn representations with the Vietnamese side. The incident marks the second time in less than a year a Vietnamese fishing vessel has been reportedly sunk by a Chinese vessel near the China-controlled Paracels.
None of it makes any sense.
A Chinese oil survey
None.
vessel conducted
Zero.
operations in Vietnamese-controlled waters for more than 3 months last year, causing a tense standoff between vessels from the two countries. The 9-line, at various times also referred to as the 10-line and the 11-line, refers to the undefined, vaguely located, demarcation line used initially by the Republic of China 1912 to 1949, and subsequently the governments of the Republic of China (ROC), which governs Taiwan, and the People's Republic of China (PRC), for their claims of the major part of the South China Sea. The contested area in the South China Sea includes the Paracel Islands, the Spratly Islands, and various other areas including the Pratas Islands, the Macclesfield Bank and the Scarborough Shoal. The claim encompasses the area of Chinese land reclamation known as the Great Wall of Sand.
So that's it for this video, but the whole story makes zero sense. Absolutely zero sense. So you're telling me these people that are out on a boat fishing, because that's their livelihood, that's how they make a living, because they're out there catching fish, is gonna all of a sudden ram some kind of Chinese Coast Guard cruiser? They're gonna put their lives at risk. They're gonna put not only their lives but their livelihood, because they need these boats to be able to fish for their livelihoods. So you're telling me they're going to destroy their life and their livelihoods to ram a cruiser? And China's going to say that it wasn't their fault? My ass! If you really truly believe that, you're ignorant. And I guess the CCP is pretty damn ignorant, because they just spewed out all kinds of lies each and every day in the media. And I guess they think the world just sucks it up and just believes it. And a lot of people do, so I guess that's why they do it. But the majority of people don't. We don't believe that crap. It pisses me off. It really does. Anyway, what's your thoughts? What's your feelings? What's your reactions? Comment down below. Let me know. But for now, I'll see you next time. Peace.